Hi there guys, MunchyTCG here, and I was actually in the process of doing a ban list prediction video that I was going to upload them onto my channel in order to try and get the ball rolling with uploading to my YouTube. However, Konami have dropped the ban list. I was literally getting my tea ready, and next thing I know, my phone is pinging from all my mates that I go to Yu-Gi-Oh with, and Konami have dropped a ban list that is going to be in effect from next Monday, the 18th of May. And I'm pretty interested to see what's on here. I've already had a bit of a brief look, so we're going to have a little talk about it. Starting off with the banned section, of course, and K9 Noroi has been banned. Now, I don't know if this is a good hit or not. I find it really funny that they banned the Roy. It has obviously the effect where it tributes a monster to look at your opponent's hand, which is even funnier now because Rotary has been released and that card essentially goes +1 instead of going -1 to do the exact same thing. I don't know if this was the right hit. I personally wanted to see K9 Ripper banned because I think that's just a way more toxic card. It'll be interesting to see if this actually does anything to sort of the K9 decks like Crystron K9 or Vanquish Soul K9. I think as long as there's no Vanquish Soul hits, I think Vanquish Soul K9 is still a very strong deck. So I'm not sure if banning the Roy will really do much, but it'll be interesting to see when the format starts. A card that I am definitely happy to see banned is Naturia Rosewhip. Now, this was a card that I did actually have down on my ban list predictions to be banned, because I think it's a similar hit to Harpy's Featherstorm being banned when Radiant Typhoon was becoming a thing with post Burst Protocol. Floodgating your opponent, only activating one spell or trap card each turn is really, really frustrating, especially if you're going second and you've sided in board breakers and then you can't use any of them because you activate a spell and then that spell gets negated and then you can't, use any more. So yeah, I've got no complaints with seeing Rosewhip banned. And then lastly, CXZ's Gimmick Puppet Fanatics Machinex. I can only assume this is for an FTK. I assume maybe like the new Earth Machine train support can, easily get into this. So I'm not going to complain about that. I don't think anyone in Yu-Gi-Oh likes FTKs, so I don't mind seeing another one being struck off. So that's it for the bans. A little bit disappointing. I kind of wanted to see Dimension Shifter on here. I wanted to maybe see a couple of yummy pieces on here, which I think, like mainly Hornet Drones and Reprodocus. But as we get into the limited, I think we'll see why that hasn't happened, and that is because both Cupsy Yummy and Cupsy Yummy Way have been put to 1. Now, I'm happy with this. I think it hurts the consistency of Yummy. I think it makes it harder for Yummy to play around certain interruptions. I think the Jush decks do just need hitting overall because Jush is at a point now where it's been relevant in the meta for nearly a year. And we really want to usher in a new era of Yu-Gi-Oh! With Blazing Dominion. That's what a lot of people are saying. So I'm happy to see Cupsy and Cupsy, Cupsy Yummy and Cupsy Yummy Way both get hit to 1. So that makes sense as to why they haven't hit the other engine pieces, because that does actually weaken Yummy quite a bit. Fairy Tale Snow has been unbanned. Now, last time this happened, Fairy Tale Snow got banned the next ban list after. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, a lot of people were expecting this because obviously Fairy Tale had some new support in Blazing Dominion. It's a very dangerous card and is a card that I think a lot of people are quite intimidated to see get unbanned. So it'll be interesting to see if it's still as strong as it was when it was last legal. Obviously, there's decks like Branded that can just get this to the graveyard straight away with Branded Fusion, which, speaking of, we'll get into that in a minute. So yeah, I'll be very intrigued to see what Fairy Tale Snow does in the new format, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit terrified of what people could do with that card. Next is Malice P White Rabbit. Now, anyone who knows me will know that I will never complain about Malice being hit on the ban list because I absolutely hate Malice to oblivion. But do you want to know what's really funny? I actually don't know if this does anything. I actually still think we'll see Malice around in the next format. I think especially because there's still so many non-engine and so many cards you can play around Malice. Like, I think if Cyber Slop is always a thing, Malice will always be a thing. So that's very funny to see White Rabbit get limited. But is the deck dead? No. Am I going to complain about Malice getting hit on the ban list? No. But we'll just move on to Branded Fusion being limited again. I don't think this does anything. Like, I literally had a text from a friend of mine who plays Branded on a group chat where he said he's literally just taken out the one Branded Fusion and just put a Branded opening in. So I don't think Branded Fusion really does anything to hinder the Branded deck or the Branded engine, especially because of the new Fallen of the White Dragon support that recently came out. So yeah, sure, Branded Fusion back at 1, move on. Now we've got 2 cards that have been unbanned, and that is Metamorphosis and Premature Burial. Now, Premature Burial, I don't think is going to do anything that crazy. I could be completely wrong, but I just feel like it's similar to Snatch Steal, where it comes back off the ban list and it just does nothing. I think it's way too ahead, way too past its time. So I can't. Maybe outside of, like, I don't know, Mekanko or something. I don't know. We'll probably won't see much of Premature Burial. Metamorphosis, on the other hand, again, I don't think we'll see much of because it's not searchable and it is a one-off. But I can see people trying to mess with this a lot more, simply because there are so many cards that you can summon that are very toxic under Metamorphosis. Like, for example, if you're playing a level 10 strategy, you can summon Naturia Exterio. If you're playing a level 8 strategy, you can summon Dragoon. If you're playing a level 7 strategy, you can summon that last Warrior Fusion that floodgates you out of special summoning. I don't know if it's legal, but if it is, potentially, if you're playing a level 5 strategy, you can summon Winder. There's a lot of toxic fusions that you can summon with Metamorphosis. Now, so I can see people maybe messing around with this, but I don't think it will be something that we'll see too commonly because it is still a one-of that you'd have to hard open or search with Thrust. And personally, there's plenty of other cards I'd much rather search with Triple Tactics Thrust over Metamorphosis. Next on the limited is Radiant Typhoon Chant. Now, this one does sting a little bit because I literally last weekend got a playset of this card and now it's at 1, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I'm playing it for Radiant Typhoon Striker, so I think you could probably just take out 2 chants for like 2 Upstart Goblin, maybe. Obviously, Radiant Typhoon is a deck that has been fairly strong as an engine, not so much as a deck itself. Like, it wasn't that dominating deck that I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. So I don't mind. No complaints here seeing Chant limited. I think weakening the Radiant Typhoon deck as an engine does help a little bit. Rahu Dracotail to 1. Now, personally, I did not expect Rahu Dracotail to get hit. I didn't actually expect much of Dracotail to be hit, to be honest. I thought they were just going to go after the branded stuff, like Branded Fusion and maybe the Fallen and the Virtuous, but I suppose they are wanting to weaken the Just decks, and limiting Rahu Dracotail certainly does that, because that's now, what, 1 Rahu. I think they have 1 Ketu Dracotail. I could be wrong. You have to let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on that, because it's been that long since I've seen that card or looked at the ban list. So, it definitely weakens the deck having only 1 Rahu. But depending on what else gets hit, I don't think Dracotail is going to be completely dead. And then lastly, for the ban list, 1 Synchro Overtake is something that they've done in Master Duel before. And to be honest, I don't think it really did much. Khortun is still a very strong deck, and I think they just replaced the 2 missing copies of Synchro Overtake with 2 copies of Duelist Genesis. Which, again, so I don't think that's really going to do much. But to be honest, they weren't going to hit Khortun this heavily this early on. They want to let that deck play out a little bit before they hit that further. But that's it for the limited section. Now we go on to the semi-limits, and that is it. There's no unlimits as well, which is one thing I noticed. Which I thought, Shavara might go to 3, or Delicious and Sleepy Memory would go to 3, but no unlimits at all, which fair enough. But Dracotail Lucius and Dracotail Arthalion have now been put down to 2. So, wow, they've really hit Dracotail. They've really weakened it. They've lowered the number of names, which I think is always hard for Dracotail, because you have to play a lot of monsters to be able to use them as fusion material. I still don't think Dracotail is dead, but I certainly do think it's going to be a lot weaker. But that is it for the ban list. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit conflicted. I think there is some good stuff here. For example, Rosewhip being banned, getting rid of an FTK, limiting the Cupsy cards. But other than that, and like limiting Rahu, I suppose, and hitting Dracotail a bit. But I'm absolutely baffled and honestly quite shocked that Mitsurugi has not seen a single hit. Like, I don't see how, like, Prayers hasn't been limited. I'm surprised that, like, pre-prep, not even like pre-prep hasn't been limited. I suppose just 10,000 more years of Habakiri. I don't know what else to say. Again, I'm very disappointed that cards like Dimension Shifter and Dimensional Fisher haven't been hit as well. Those cards are extremely toxic. They're going to be in the side deck with the new format for sure. I think, Shifter should have been banned. D Fisher I could see being limited, because Konami like to limit floodgates sometimes before they actually ban them. But yeah, overall, if I was to rate this ban list out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 6 or like a 5, because I think there are some good hits there, but I do also think that they have really missed out on not hitting Mitsurugi and not hitting things like Shifter and D Fisher, which I don't know if they opted to not hit Mitsu because they didn't want to kind of make people who just bought legendary modern decks feel like they've been kicked in the balls, but even just limiting prayers or limiting pre-prep wouldn't kill the deck, especially because at some point down the line we're going to be getting End of the World Ruler. But yeah, overall, this ban list is okay. Like, it's not great, but it's not shit either. So there's not much I can say to that. But that is going to wrap it up for my ban list prediction. If you have enjoyed this, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what your thoughts are on the ban list. I'll be sure to try and reply to them. And with that, I've been MunchyTCG, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.